Okay, thank y'all. I will just tell you, this is my biggest Zoom meeting ever. So I appreciate everybody's patience while we get everybody moved into the call here. And I think we are going to go ahead and get started. So I guess good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for GCSAGE Conversations with the Candidates. In order to be sure we have plenty of time for each of our candidates to chat with you, we're going to go ahead and get started. As many of you know, advocacy is a pillar of SAGE's mission, and it's especially important for families of gifted and talented students to recognize that school districts in Texas do not receive designated state or federal funding for gifted and advanced programs. We rely on our school board to support and fund these programs. Therefore, annually, we host a forum of the candidates for GCISD School Board of Trustees so you can get to know them, hear their views, and engage in a conversation about the issues that are near and dear to our community. SAGE is celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. We continue to represent the GT parent voice, and unfortunately, as public education again faces potential budget cuts, given the lower overall revenue projected by the state, parent involvement in our volunteer-run organization continues to be the key to protecting the future of GT services in our district and every district across Texas. I hope that those of you that are joining us this evening who are not currently members of SAGE will give serious consideration to joining us as we enter into what will no doubt be a complicated legislative year beginning in January. And our membership starts as low as $20, so you can find more information by going to gc-sage.org. As a 501c3 nonprofit organization, GCSAGE does not favor, oppose, or endorse any candidates. We strive to provide information to our community about all candidates who are seeking public office. Our trustee candidates for this year's GCISD board elections were invited to participate in tonight's conversation. They were also invited to submit a written or videotaped piece that would provide an overview of their perspective on GT and advanced academics. So I would encourage everyone to head to our website and check out our amazing voter guide. It contains info on all local races in our community. This evening, we have 4 candidates joining us for our conversations, and we've used a randomized number sequencer to determine the order they will go in. Our first candidate is Jorge Rodriguez. Second will be Doug Noell. Lori Crenshaw will go next, and Coley Canter will go fourth. Some quick rules, and then we'll hand it over to our first candidate. Each candidate has been given 20 minutes to speak to you. All candidates have been given access to a list of topics of interest to our community, as well as any questions that were submitted by you via our registration process as of noon today. The candidate will lead the conversation, and they may ask for additional questions or comments from the audience via the chat function. We ask all candidates to refrain from personal attacks, whether a candidate is present or not. Today's conversation is solely an opportunity to hear candidates' perspectives on GT and advanced academics issues for the purpose of voter education. The audience has been asked to keep their video on and their audio off. If we run into bandwidth problems, we may ask you to turn your cameras off to allow for better connectivity for the candidates. But for right now, it seems like it's going pretty well. The audience may use the chat function to ask a topical question. The chat will be seen by all. The candidate will decide which questions from the audience to answer verbally. We ask the audience to maintain an atmosphere of respect. The timekeeper will give a 2-minute warning as we near the 20-minute mark, at which time the candidate will wrap up their remaining thought and we will move on to the next candidate joining us. This virtual meeting is being recorded and we will post it on the SAGE website and social media as soon as we can. We ask that we all have grace and patience for technology, like you all wonderfully did as I got everybody into the room this evening. And just know that if we have any issues, we will get them resolved as quickly as possible. And we have made provisions to ensure that each candidate has access to their full 20 minutes. All righty, so it's now my pleasure to turn the conversation over to our first candidate, Mr. Jorge Rodriguez. Is he unmuted? And we have asked Jorge to go ahead and unmute himself, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Very glad to join you guys. It was a long first day of early voting. Hopefully some of you guys had the opportunity to go and vote. If not, you have plenty of time, 3 more weeks. And of course, November 3rd. So I didn't expect it to be this hot today. So it was. So anyway, thank you again to allow me to speak to you guys today. I am probably, as you know, a lifetime member of SAGE. And I've been a member of SAGE since the organization started 10 years ago. So congratulations on your 10-year anniversary. It's great. Back in 2008, when I was elected, we had a really different GT and advanced academic programs in GCISD. Unfortunately, back then, I will not call GCISD a GT-friendly district. We had a lot of issues, and one of the first one that I can think of is the fact that we didn't really have a GT and advanced academics department. We only had one person part-time working in our district, and those are some of the challenges that we had back then about just resources to serve our community. So one of the things that I really wanted to do when I was elected was to bring that to kind of the top of the focus of our district. When we worked in our new strategic plan, LEAD 2021, I think that we made a huge investment, huge commitment to serve the GT community and advanced academics for the whole district. And I think that that was a huge step for us to, I guess, start of what we are actually today. You know, we beefed up our department. We have a real staff now with a director. And we also have a really, really strong portfolio of services for our kids. I remember back then when my daughter was in Timberline, she was reading, you know, in the classroom, and I know she wanted to read more, and the teacher will tell her, no, Jasmine, you gotta just read this part and wait for the next guy to read, and she will just go nuts, right? And of course, many of us that maybe are a little older in the audience with older kids, we remember the times where our GT pull-out, what we used to call it before, the GT pull-out class was the only class that our kid was interested in the whole week, maybe an hour or 2 hours a week. And everything else was boring, not engaging, etc. And we made a commitment with LEAD 2021 to have GT trained teachers, to have cluster in our classroom so that our kids will be with their peers, and little by little started to improve the program to what it is today. Of course, we also had the Aspire Academy, a huge leap in terms of services for the highly gifted. And that's something that we all feel very proud of. One of the shining stars of our district, which makes the GT program in GCISD the top program in the state. But it has been a long way to go, a long way from 2008. And I have to thank the influence, the comments, the feedback from SAGE and all GT parents in our district, because without you, we will not be where we are. One of the things that I can tell you is, you know, when things are really good, that we are, and they are really good for us. I know that we have things to improve, but, you know, even the fact that you can, in elementary school, telescope, that you think about it, say, okay, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that you have to align all the classes, right? So that a kid could go from first grade in his, let's say, English class to second grade math and be aligned. So when we go to the next classroom, the class is waiting for him. Those are things that we have to think about our plan. You know, it's not something that just happens. We are able to align the whole curriculum to allow our kids to be able to benefit from those services. So there has to be a commitment from the board down to make this happen. There's resources, there's training, it's not that easy to find really good GT trained teachers or pay for their training if we have them. I remember during LEAD 2021 discussions, some of the teachers that were there as part of our steering committee were asking, well, why can I teach GT students, you know? And well, because you're not trained, you know, and we want to make sure that the students get the teacher that is a good fit for them. And that's why we ask and kind of require the teacher that we're going to be dealing with these students that are trained. So those are some of the things that we changed back in 2010, 2011, when we started the GT, the LEAD 2021 strategic plan. I'm saying all this because I think there might be a sense of, you know, of this is the normal thing, this is what we expect. And in a challenging year like the one we will have in 2021 with the legislative session and the fact that the budgets are going to be cut and the fact that the school boards are going to be the ones deciding, you know, where the funds go for GT students and other areas, it is really important that we look at the candidates. You know, we look at who's going to be running for school board and know and understand what is the commitment for those candidates for GT education and advanced academics. And I can tell you that, I have been committed to GT education. I've been committed to advanced academics from day one. And, you know, our GT and advanced academic goal has been as part of Dr. Ryan's superintendent goals for many years, and we continue to keep it because we know there's things that need to be improved. And, you know, it's a question of, you know, who is going to be in the school board and who's going to be supporting GT students when cuts might happen. And, you know, we expect, I mean, I personally expect a 10% cut in our funding. It has happened in the University of Texas system. They were asked to cut 5% in the last school year and 5% in this school year. And something like that probably is going to happen to us. So, you know, it is important that we have trustees that give the importance and the priority to GT and advanced academics education. And we have 21% identification in our district. That is second in the state, and is first among diverse districts in terms of, you know, economically diverse and racially diverse. We're top in the whole state, and we have probably almost 80% of our students are participating in either AP or dual credit. So we have a huge number of students participating in advanced academics. I can think of maybe extracurricular where the participation is 95%. That might be the only thing higher than advanced academics. And I just believe that for us to, if we want to commit our district to college readiness, which is what we decided to do when we wrote LEAD 2021, the only way to measure that, in my opinion, is to look at, you know, the participation and passing rates on AP and dual credit courses. And, you know, we have one of the top 6 districts in the whole state in participation and passing rates. And on the diverse districts, we're number 1. You know, the districts that are higher than us, they're all below 1% poverty, except Coppell, they're at 9%, and we're at 25%. So, you know, moving a district this diverse at the top of the state is something that we should all feel proud of. And that is something that I definitely thank you for your commitment to advanced academics and GT education, and also your openness to tell us what things are going well and when things are not. And this type of conversation, which I can tell you, I talk to GT parents every day. And not including my wife, just other than my wife, other parents. And I'm the first to hear when things are not right. And I'm the first to talk to superintendent and talk to trustees to see what can we do to make it better. Because I know this is key for us to continue to be a top district in the state. I'm currently work at UT Arlington, and we can see how many kids, how many students go to college and are just not ready in English, not ready in college algebra. You know, our TSI passing rates in the whole state is around 60%. You know, so we got 40% of kids that graduate from high schools in Texas that are not ready for college, and that's just not the case with us. So definitely, in terms of commitment to advanced academics and GT education, I will measure myself against anybody there. And maybe Becky, I know she's there, and probably she's tied with me, but you know, that's when that you can count on me is, you know, we will be focused, we will be ready to protect GT education and advanced academics in the state, in our district. I don't know if I can answer any question. I know there was few questions that were sent and I can touch on those. There was one that was very interesting to me, and I'm trying to look at it. Let's see. Okay, yes, this is an interesting one. I was asked, I am repeatedly seeing the phrase from several of the candidates saying, we need to get back to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. As the parent of two GT students, can you please explain what this means and why one feels that these concepts are not being taught? Well, I can tell you that I'm not one of those candidates that are saying that. So I don't know what they're talking about, but I can tell you that, you know, in late 2021, you know, the commitment, not only about career and college readiness, but also about engaging the student in the classroom. And students learn differently. So we change our approach where instead of having a teacher just lecturing students, we have a more of a participatory environment in the classroom. And we look for programs that were attractive and engaging for the students. You know, that's why we started things like STEM, the Aspire Academy, two-way dual language programs, and AVID and others. Because we want to make sure that, you know, we have the extracurricular activities that engage kids, but we also wanted to do the same in the classroom. And this thing about going back to the basics, I don't know. I think that what we have is what the kids want, which is an engaging classroom when they're gonna not only get ready for college, but also enjoy it while they're at it. You know, we want kids that want to go to school. You know, we want kids that want to enjoy being in the classroom, want to enjoy learning from teachers. And what do we do when we look for areas that that are attractive? You know, one of the things that I personally brought into the district is this concept of student voice. And I learned that from just working in marketing and actually doing interviews to truck drivers. I was actually developing software for truck cabins, you know, mapping and all sorts of different software tools for truck drivers. And I sat at the truck station and I learned, I asked them about their experience. And, you know, they told me all their stories. They were crying about not being with their families. But I learned a lot about what is being a truck driver. You know, what does that feel like? So if I'm a teacher and I'm teaching a lesson and I think that I got it, I think that I'm pretty good at it, I'm teaching it, but if the kid doesn't get it and I don't know it, you know, then how can I get better other than the student telling me? And that's one of the things that we have introduced, and it has been, you know, it has been several years now that we have been doing it in the whole district. And it's no different than me being here and listening to your issues with GT education. It's about listening to the students about what worked and what didn't work, and allow the teacher to learn from that and get better every day. So, you know, not only we get an engaging experience in the classroom, but we also get a better teacher every day because they're learning from the student, you know. And in our case with the GT students, they're always willing to tell us what we're doing wrong. I mean, I don't know if that happens to you in your house, but it happens in my house. And I'm sure they're okay with letting the teacher, if they're given an opportunity, what didn't go well. And I had to give it to the teachers, the one that started this process. You know, we didn't make them do it. We actually asked for volunteers. And, you know, who wants to hear what they did wrong in the classroom from, you know, 22 teenagers in 10th grade, right? Nobody wants to do that. But they did. And, you know, right now, little by little, we grew the program to where it's now, which is every teacher, hopefully, is doing it. And I think that that's huge in terms of allowing the student to be part of the plan strategy of their own education. And I think that that's huge, especially when you go to college and you had that confidence to talk to your teacher about what went right, what went wrong. I mean, that's what you need in terms of student going to college and kind of defending themselves, you know, in front of the class, in front of the professor. So I thought that was a very interesting question that I saw. I'm going to look at other ones. If elected, what will you hope will be key accomplishments of the board for the GT and Advanced Academics program? I would say in terms of Advanced Academics is continue to align a curriculum from first grade up so that when kids go to those first dual credit courses classes or AP classes that are ready for them, you know, that we can get the 4s and the 5s in the test so that they can go to college and get those credits. I think that that's key. Right now, you know, we're only one of 6 districts that have over 50% of their juniors and seniors in AP classes. And we want to continue to raise that number, in addition to raise the passing rate on both high schools and of course the regular other schools that we have. We are at around 72% passing rate, which is really high for a district this size and for any district in the state. So I think that's one thing. We definitely want to continue to train our teachers. I'm not talking about not only the Aspire Academy teacher, but I think that the GT teachers in the regular classroom getting more GT strategies, which benefit not only our GT student, but any student. I think that that's one thing that we want to continue to do, continue to improve the GT lead program. But we don't want to hear that that's the only thing that they like in elementary school. We want to hear they want to enjoy the whole experience in the classroom. And for that reason, we want to continue to train the regular teachers on GT strategies. I think that those are the 2 things that I would like to continue to work on. And I think that that's why we continue to keep that GT advanced academics goal in the superintendent goals every year. Let's see if there's anything else. Other questions that I see here. This is a long question. I heard several people say that when Aspire Academy came to Glen Hope, instruction in all classrooms improved as teachers collaborated more. Do you have ideas to bring in GT instructional methods into classrooms, into more classrooms across the district? I think that, you know, I cannot answer that question. The answer is yes. I think our GT advanced academic departments, I believe that that should be one of their goals, and it's to continue to bring those strategies to the whole regular classrooms. Because at the end of the day, that will create a more engaging classroom, more interesting classroom, and people will learn and be ready for those advanced courses at the middle schools and high schools. So that's key. Another question, will you be more likely to reduce, maintain, or increase funds allocated to GT and Aspire programs if elected? You know, I think that in a regular year, we would like to increase that funding. But, you know, with COVID-19 and what we expect, we hopefully to maintain it, you know, and that's going to be critical because we have, you know, huge participation numbers, you know, 21% identification, you know, plus 50% participation in advanced academics. I mean, those are huge numbers compared to other districts. I will definitely I'm going to be sending you guys a table that compares all the districts in terms of passing rates and participation rates on advanced academics. You will be surprised at how low some numbers are for districts that are well recognized, that we will, you know, recognize as great districts. So that's definitely one thing that we want to maintain in terms of the funding. It's not gonna be easy because we definitely expect some issues, some challenges in the next legislative session. But definitely, I'm one that will do all we can to try to maintain, because we know there's a need. We know that there's things to improve, and we definitely have the population and the community that needs it. So definitely that's one thing that I want to do. I want to check on the time because I know I only have 20 minutes.
Hi, Jorge. You have 2 minutes left.
2 minutes left. Wow. Okay. So, well, I guess in 2 minutes, I wanted to say, so first, thank you for the opportunity. And I think that we should do this more often. I think that, once every 3 years might be a little bit too, not enough. I mean, I'm willing to do this, you want to do it once a month, once every 2 months, that'll be great. I love to talk to parents. I believe that is what I enjoy the most. I mean, I definitely don't enjoy the meetings with the school board that long, and I know the last few have been really long. But talking to parents about the students and the issues, that's what I enjoy, and fixing problems. That's the thing that I like to do, and just serve the community. Really listen, see what we can do to serve just one particular student. That's the area, that's the issue, or maybe just the whole system, the whole portfolio of services, if that's something that we have to improve. the last thing to say, of course, we have an election. Today was the first day of early voting. We have voting from tomorrow, the October 14th to the 30th, and November 3rd, election day. I hope that you will consider my record of accomplishments on the school board and my commitment to GT students and advanced education, and give me your vote and your support. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Jorge. We really appreciate it. I just want to thank you on behalf of myself and Sage and all of our members and everyone who's here today. So we might take you up on that offer to do it more often.
Sure. All right.
So great. All right. Well, we're going to have you check out, and we are going to let Mr. Noel in from the waiting room. So give us just a second, y'all, while Doug joins us. Let him come in, and then we will just need to ask him to unmute himself, and we will get started. I'll just take this opportunity on a down moment to say, y'all use the chat room if you have a question, okay? Because I know we did have those few questions that were sent in ahead of time that have been shared with the candidates, but please don't hesitate to type over there, and the candidates will see it. So it looks like Doug is here, and he has unmuted himself, so it is my honor to introduce Mr. Doug Noell.
Hi.
Take it away, Doug.
Is my video on? I can't see it.
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
I'm not seeing it.
There.
There you are.
Perfect. And I you said on the down moment, the moment I came on the call, so I just gotta give you a hard time about that.
It wasn't related to you. I didn't know you were here yet. I was encouraging them to use the chat feature.
I get it. I get it. Well, I just want to thanks for having me. Glad to always talk with Sage or any of our parent communities, and I want to thank you. I don't know if everybody knows me. I'll give you a little background on me. My name is Doug Noell. Running for re-election for the school board. I want to make sure that the school board continues to work with our district leaders to identify everything we can to make get the best programs out there to meet the needs of every one of our students, so that they're ready for what's next, and so taken care of while they're in the district as well. I'm actually a 7th generation Texan. Grew up in the Dallas area. Went to A&M, majored in economics. Was in Air Force ROTC, Aggie Band. After college, I went into basically consulting in the healthcare industry with IT and business process engineering. Had a good career with most of the time with Pro Systems. Retired in 2010. Since then, I've been really a volunteer, very, very active volunteer with our schools. Had the privilege of being a stay-at-home dad, which has been mostly fun. And I know your parents too, so you all know that that's not always fun. but it's been a lot of fun. My wife Courtney is recently retired. She's an ear, nose, and throat doc. We moved here back before we had a child, but we kind of looked around the area and we saw that GCISD had some great academics and also a very diverse community. And we like the character of the area as well. My biggest priorities are, reviewing, improving all of our programs, make sure that what we're doing is effective and continues to be effective and gets even better. We've been a top 100 place to work for the last 2 years because we try to make sure this is a great place for teachers to work, where they want to work, where they want to come to work and can do great things. They're well trained and their hearts in the right place, and they're great. We want to make sure they can do the great things that they're capable of. Little about my kind of volunteer experience. As you know, I've been on the board of trustees for 3 years, I guess 3.5 years now. During that time, we've won the Outstanding School Board of the Year in Texas. We also won the HEB Foundation's school board, or we're finalists for their board of the year, down to 5 finalists. Before that, before that and during that, I guess I've been a PTA officer, most often as treasurer. That's I think a fun role for me that I liked. I was actually a president briefly as well. Won the Friend of Children Award and the Lifetime Membership Award in the PTA. Been on the council of PTAs, Dads Clubs, president of Dads Club, Campus Excellence Committees, the District Leadership Academy, District of Innovation Committee, District Excellence Committees. I've been a member of SAGE for years and on the board there for several years as well. Just a whole bunch of other fun volunteer opportunities most of them working with our kids to and supporting our community. So I guess I'll stop talking about me because I don't enjoy that, and we can start talking about questions in schools. And I guess I will just start with the list that I think the 10 questions that were forwarded yesterday or today. Let's see. Everybody on board? Can I get some thumbs up? Okay. It's weird just talking to a screen. Okay. First one was share some ideas for encouraging a stronger relationship between GCISD Advanced Academics Department and Special Services to work collaboratively to ensure that our twice exceptional students' needs are being addressed and not dismissed because they have the ability to be high achievers academically. I think we've made a lot of progress in this recently. 2E was years ago it's still difficult. It's more, any E is a little more difficult and challenging, but we've got to work for those students. We've made a lot of progress where it's not just whichever E you pick, you have to pick one, and recognizing our students have multiple things to work with and make sure they're getting the needs addressed. Whether it's ADHD and gifted or ADHD and dyslexia or gifted and dyslexia, whatever the combination is, we've got to make sure those students their needs are being met. And again, I think we've made some big strides in that. We've got, there's always room for improvement. We need to continue to try to improve that, but I think we've made some progress. Next question, have you advocated for gifted education and advanced academics? Absolutely. Both at the campus level and the district level and the state level. I've met with our legislators several times. As you know, the gifted allotment was actually eliminated. You could say it was not eliminated if you want to skirt around it by saying it was included in the basic allotment, but it's capped. Either way, it was capped at 5% of students. At GCISD, we have about 22% of our students are identified as gifted. So that does not come close to meeting meeting all of our student population and making sure they're getting everything they need. At a board level, we have made a commitment to that to make sure that our students are being served. We spend about 3 times what the state funding we get on gifted education. It's not cheap. It's not easy, but it's what we need for those kids. I think we'll see the results of that for some of those results we may not see for years. Some of them we'll see right now, and I'm looking forward to the progress that we're making by identifying those and supporting that educational method. I know when I was a kid, it was a nerdy thing. I was a nerd. I'm good with that. I own it. But it's I think gifted has changed a lot where it's I think we're mostly rewarded for gifted education now, but again, that doesn't make it easy. There's always challenges. The kids have challenges of their own, and I guess I'll stop talking on that one. All right, next one was okay, how important is GT advanced academic students to interact with gen ed students and students with learning needs in classes? Well, generally, I think I want all of our kids to interact at different times. I think they all benefit about seeing kids who are like them and kids who are different than them. There's also the ADA requires that students be in the least restrictive environment. So in some of our classrooms we have some struggling learners who are there with teacher aides to help make sure they're staying on track. If there's disruptions there in the general classroom, it's not a good fit, but we have to accommodate the needs of all of our students. And so you do see some classrooms the on-level classrooms where you have gifted kids in there and you have some kids who struggle as well. And I've been in several of those classrooms, and from what I've seen, and I haven't been there days and days and days, of course, but and not 8 to 5 the whole time. But what I've seen is it actually works pretty well, and I think ideally is benefiting all the kids in the room. If elected, what what would you hope would be accomplishments of the board for GT and advanced academics program? I don't want to sound too much of a political answer, but to make them better. They're pretty good. You know, we just had the Aspire audit this past year, and it was rated, the evaluators said it was by far the best advanced academics program in the state for any public school. I think we can leverage that. A lot of the gifted strategies that we teach we use in Aspire, working for the GT lead classrooms as well, for our GT sections of our AP classes, and they work in general ed too. Basically, gifted teaching strategies are good teaching strategies. And some of that's individualized into the students, and you know, some of it's identifying what needs they have. And in our classrooms, again, with 22% identified as GT, almost every classroom in our district is a gifted classroom, and we've got to make sure that the needs are being met everywhere for every student. Am I talking too fast? Can you understand me? Okay. Do I need to talk faster? No. Okay. Would you have voted to postpone the school's original in-person opening as the current board did? I did vote for that, and I think it was the right decision. We did not have all of our personal protective gear in place, though some of it had been ordered months ahead of time. And I think what we've seen is that the precautions we have in place are working. We have had, I'm sure almost everybody here has gotten emails about a positive COVID case. We have had COVID come into the school, but it does not appear that we've had much, if possibly none, but I would say much is a better term. We have not had much transmission within the school, so those protective measures are working. It's frustrating for everybody I know right now that we have things that we can't control, that we got to work through. But I'm glad we've got students in person as well. I think that's everybody, well, not everybody, but most of our students, most of our teachers want those kids in person, and our parents do too, want the kids in person. And I think it's, we've just got to make sure we're protecting everybody involved. And students are lower risk, but they come home to families that are higher risk, and teachers, of course, we have to protect as well. Okay. Would you be more likely to reduce, maintain, or increase the % of funds allocated to GT and Aspire? That's a good question. It's a hard one. We've got, if you're familiar with the school budgets, it's tight. It's hard to it'd be very hard to increase it dramatically. I think we've got to get creative, make sure that we're doing what we can to meet the needs of every student, our gifted students and our non-gifted students as well. So it's hard to just answer that in generalities or specifics there, but it's we want to make sure we take care of every student. I hope that wasn't too big a punt. Let's see. I chuckled at this question, but repeatedly seeing the phrase from several candidates, we need to get back to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. As I think everybody on this call knows, we teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we teach it at a much higher level than I think most of us had exposure to when we were students. You can take, I think, 3 years of calculus in high school. I was done with calculus before I got that far in college, but it was there are so many more academic opportunities for kids. They're learning, and they're learning well. Let's see. I may have touched on this a little bit, but I've heard several people say that when Aspire Academy came to Glen Hope, instruction in all classrooms improved as teachers collaborated. I think that's absolutely true, and I think our collaboration with our teachers is better. I think in the GT Lead program, the GT Lead teachers are doing doing a better job now of communicating with our classroom teachers to make sure that the GT Lead programming dovetails into the classroom, and that they know what's going on in the classroom so they can tailor the GT Lead class itself to the classroom. So I think we've made big progress there. And I think the like I said earlier, the GT teaching strategies are good teaching strategies. Okay. Next, okay, there it is. How will you support expanding and addressing gaps in the Aspire curriculum related to diversity, inclusion, cultural bias, and awareness of our current national issues? What efforts do you propose to adjust spending and planning to prepare for possible shortfalls from drops in tax revenue? I think I think our biggest issue with the diversity is making sure we're identifying all of our students that should be in the GT classes. And it's not just, I'd expand it beyond GT to some of our extracurriculars. Some of our extracurriculars have great diversity, some do not. And we need to make sure that those students have the opportunity to participate, that every student has the opportunity to participate, and that we're prepared for that. And some of that in GT specifically is training for teachers on how to identify GT students. Some parents, I think a lot of the SAGE parents I know advocate for their students in a big way, and know that these search for GT programs and find them and make sure their students are in them. Some parents don't have that time or knowledge to make sure they're advocating for their students, and we need to make sure that we've got teachers that are that can do that advocating for them to make sure they're ready. So I guess the biggest thing is identification and opportunity. How do I see the future of GT and Aspire programming? The GT program I see kind of expanding. We've got expanding where it's just got more depth and complexity, like we're targeting with all of our classrooms. Project work, students getting into kind of advanced topics. That's going to create I'm sure we'll create controversy when we have students come up with advanced topics that are not politically correct. But students. I've got a teenager. I was a teenager. We're not always teenagers aren't always going to say what you want. But we need to make sure that they're getting the opportunity to explore in more depth and detail where they can. As far as Aspire Academy specifically, one of the things that was identified in the audit was a kind of strategic question, which I've kind of thought about many times. And is it Aspire? Is it a high-performing academy, or is it designed for the social and emotional needs of students? And those are conflicting goals, really. If it's a high performance academy, it probably shouldn't be GT based. If it's a social and emotional needs of GT learners, then that probably makes sense. But that's not a decision that I think the board can make alone. I think it's one that the board has to make in conjunction with parents, community, with SAGE. SAGE is a great sounding board and has a great partnership with the district, and we've got a lot of knowledge in this community to help make that decision, and I don't think it should be made in isolation. Okay, how am I doing on time, Kimberly? Do I have more questions?
You have about 3 minutes left, Doug.
3 minutes left. Okay. All right, and I don't see any questions in the group chat. I don't want to just vamp for 10 minutes, for 3 minutes. Nobody wants to hear me do that. I can tell some dad jokes. No, I know nobody wants to hear that. So anyway, I want to thank SAGE for hosting this. I appreciate the opportunity again to reach out to you, to let you know where I am. I'm a parent of a gifted kid. I've really appreciated SAGE. I've learned a lot more about being a better parent, about being a better husband to someone who's clearly gifted, and I've learned a lot about myself too, and made some good friendships. So I appreciate SAGE and the GT community in general. I look forward to serving for another 3 years, and on the board. All right, I just saw a couple questions come in.
Yeah, as I say, you just got a couple that came in. So can you see those, or you want me to read them to you?
I see it.
Pick
Okay.
one. Might have time for one.
Okay.
have
What are
2
my
minutes.
thoughts? What are my thoughts on rolling the GT allotment into the basic allotment since it lowers our Robin Hood payment and increases entitlements across the board? I've got to reread that. I don't like rolling the GT allotment into the basic allotment. Yeah, okay, I did say that right. I don't like seeing the if we have specialized populations, we need to make sure that we're getting funded appropriately for those special populations. You know, there's several different allotments. None of them are enough. The allotment from the state doesn't cover the services we provide for gifted. It doesn't cover it for special ed. It doesn't cover it for dyslexia. We've made a commitment to make sure that we're doing the programming that every student's need, despite those limitations, though. Next question was, what has been a challenge that you have faced and advocated for on behalf of SAGE? You know, I would say in general, I hate to say in general, but supporting gifted education, making sure that we have good strategies, that the depth and complexity is there, which is a challenge considering the way the TEKS are written, because they're written very broadly and you have to cover a lot of material in a short period of time. You know, I would expand on that. We know one, I think, future strategy and dilemma that we've got as parents and I think as board members too, is when you compare AP classes to truly depth and complexity, like seminar style classes, because the AP classes are similar to the TEKS and that they're, you know, I've heard the phrase mile wide and an inch deep. And an AP class is kind of like a college 101 class, where most of those are, where you have a huge amount of topics to cover, but you can't really dive in a whole lot of depth. But if we, you know, we all want our kids to have AP classes too, and make sure they're getting all that college credit. You know, AP is a pretty good system for that. It's something that we all look to for some of our success for our students, and that creates a challenge. But okay, and I would say that, you know, I'm a member of SAGE. I'm a board member. I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quick, Kimberly. I can see you're getting antsy.
Okay.
But personally, when I'm as a board member, when I'm on a campus, I feel like I have to kind of step back a little bit from just being a SAGE advocate. I've got to look at the kind of the bigger picture. And I know it's been probably a little frustrating to some of my fellow board members that when I'm there, I'm like, you know, I can't just wear my SAGE hat. I've always got to wear that other hat as well. So it's a little bit of a line to walk that I've got to walk. So, but again, you know, that doesn't mean I can't advocate for gifted education. I've just got to, but I do advocate for all of our students as well. Okay. Are you gonna kick me off now? Unceremoniously?
I'm going to kick you out, Mr. Noel.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we thank you on behalf of everybody here and all of SAGE in our community. So we appreciate it, and we'll chat with you again sometime.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Doug. All right, if everybody will just bear with us for just a second while we get our next candidate in. Our next candidate will be Lori Crenshaw. And it'll take us just a minute she's in the waiting room, so we just need to get her in and get her unmuted, and we will let her get started. It'll give Megan a time to get the timer reset. And Lori, let's get you unmuted. Awesome. Did you do that? Yes. Seeing, is it?
I did it.
There she goes. The floor is all yours, Lori. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody. Appreciate you doing this in a quiet way after a long day. I'm sitting here by myself in the quiet, so hopefully that'll make it a more productive conversation. If you want to change directions, let me put my chat up and just throw me out a question, or you want to change directions, we can change directions. I guess I'll just start, and then we can go whatever direction you want to go. My name is Lori Crenshaw. I'm running for place 5. I decided to do this because the seat was empty and I felt like my qualifications were a good match for a school board member. And little did I know what I was getting into. None of us did, but I really wanted to do it then, and I still continue to want to do it now. And I hope I can give you an idea of who I am in this short time. The SPIRE program, I'm very familiar with the SPIRE program. Before the SPIRE program was there, we didn't really have anything like that for our really gifted kids. And so they ended up in accelerated classes. And I taught accelerated science, 6th grade accelerated science, and then I taught 8th grade IPC. And so the kids that would have been in Aspire were in my courses. And so I kind of learned a little bit about some of their needs. And I think that started me thinking about what special educational needs that the gifted students have. It's important to continue this program. I think it's a moral imperative that we give these kids what they need to sort out their gifts and talents in a way that benefits society. So I hope that answers your question. If you have another one, throw it out there. I did look at the questions that y'all sent to me through the email and scanned them. And there was one in particular that caught my eye, and I went ahead and answered that on my Facebook page. I don't know if any of you saw the response that I gave to that. The question was about this idea of, should we open early? Should we not open early? Should we all go back? Should we not go back? And I think that caught my eye because I think that is an example of something that would really bother a GT person. I think our kids really think a lot about a lot of things and want to do the right thing. And so kind of the flip-flopping of it was stressful. You know, a characteristic of a gifted person is that they ruminate about things. They turn things over in their heads over and over again, and then they start to get caught up in the symptoms of their rumination instead of, you know, moving forward. They kind of get frozen in that, you know, cycle. And so, you know, it couldn't have been helped. I mean, I'm not saying that it, you know, it could have been done differently. I'm just saying that it was bothersome. And I think that right now the time is really bothersome for people who are gifted and talented because of the tremendous amount of input that we're having right now. GT people take input in all different ways, you know, through what they read, through what they hear, through what they feel, and they have to organize that information in a way that they can file it away and draw it back out again. And when the information comes too fast and too much, that causes them some distress. And you know, right now I have 1,300 emails on my phone, and that is, you know, a combination of one child in school, just one, and running for school board, obviously, and ads that we normally get, right? So as a person who wants to organize those things and needs to, because, you know, your executive functioning is very important to your success, it becomes overwhelming. And I think, you know, our GT kids, you know, they are a little bit more attuned to some of the things, and, you know, they get caught up in all of that. And we know that affects learning, you know, that if it's not a safe, quiet, and safe for them means more than just physical too. Well, for everyone, safe means more than just physical. But for them in particular, they're, you know, a little bit more sensitive, I think. how familiar, oh, that's the same question. There's no other questions. I mean, that was the one that stood out to me. Are there any questions of the other questions that stood out to you, or I can elaborate on that one? But I think right now, what we're going to have to focus on is really what post-pandemic looks like, because we don't actually know what the effect this is going to have on our kids. It's easy to say, oh, they're fine, but we don't know that. And if we put ourselves in their shoes, you know, how important it was for us to have a football game, how important for us it was to have, you know, our first driver's license on time, and our first date, and our firsts, and then have it put off for a year. We really don't understand what that means to them. And so, you know, I think this is a real challenging time, and I think that there's going to probably be a lot of research done on you know, what this has done to our kids. You know, as far as you know, gifted and talented funding, and you know what the state of Texas does, and the state of Texas has one of the most complex educational systems in the country. It's the largest and complex. And so, you know, it's probably a huge job to figure out, you know, where the funding goes. It's more complicated than it needs to be. I've looked a little bit about the House Bill 3, and let's see, this is from one from the registration. We'll stop and go on. Let's see, if elected, what would you hope would be some key accomplishments of the board for the GT Advanced Academics Program? You know, first of all, I think that some of the people we have working in GT are just stellar. I mean, I think that they, you know, I worked with some of them as an instructional coach. I worked with a lot of the GT people, and I think that they just, you know, work hard, and they're up in their field, and they know what they're doing. Key accomplishments, I think, is really more action research. Basically, it is looking at this idea that, you know, some of the attributes of a gifted student might overlap with some of the attributes of an at-risk student, and look to see if we are able to identify students that are not your typical gifted students. You know, they don't look like typically gifted, and kind of pull apart what behaviors signal somebody being gifted. And I'm not talking gifted just academically, because there's lots of ways to be gifted. You know, there's gifted musically, there's physically, kinesthetically, I guess you'd call it. But there's lots of different ways to be gifted, and I think more conversations like that will kind of tease out, you know, and also help parents to understand that. Let's see, Lori, can you tell us more about yourself and your teaching career? Okay, what are the qualifications? Okay, it's moving, okay. So I'll go back to my qualifications. See, I graduated from Baylor University with a BS in chemistry in 1986. I actually was at Missouri State Science and Technology for my first 2 years of school. I was going to be a chemical engineer, and my husband, he was in Waco, and so I transferred to Baylor, and Baylor didn't have engineering, so I went into chemistry. And I got my degree in chemistry, and then I went to SMU and got a degree in synthetic organic chemistry. And same place that Dr. Nottingham went to at GHS. We graduated out of the same department at SMU. And after that, I was eager to get a job, and I took the first job that came along, and I got a job at Beauty Control Cosmetics. And it was interesting to say the least. I had to test mascara and stuff, and it wasn't the job that I wanted. So I went to Alcon Labs in Fort Worth and worked as a bench chemist. And then I moved into computational chemistry and did that for a number of years until I had my third child, and it was too much. I consulted with them for a little while. And then I alternatively certified as a teacher. And at the time that I came out of alternative certification, alternative certification wasn't popular. I, was having a hard time finding a job because it went to the bottom of the pile. And I got a job at Cross Timbers Middle School under Linda Tidmore, and I taught there as a middle school science teacher, got most of my teaching experience there. I also taught at junior college at night sometimes at Tarrant County College Northeast. And and then I was on the first 15 instructional coaching team at Grapevine, Colleyville. And after that, I started doing some freelance stuff for myself, with some different curriculum writing companies, and just kind of worked for myself for a while. And up until last December, I was taking projects, but I put them aside to run for the school board. My motivation for running simply is because I thought I was at the right place at the right time. I mean, the truth be known, I was doing some other stuff. I was always looking for other things to do. And my husband said, "Why don't you run for school board?" And I said, "Well, the seat is empty and it was being vacated by a teacher. So I thought it would be a good thing for me to do." Can you summarize specifically your motivation? I think that's pretty specific. Top priorities, particularly if overall funding is decreased. Well, that's a good question. Having not seen a budget ever of a school district, not knowing, how it's divided, I know that I would still keep an emphasis on GT education. But top priorities is, for any program, I think for any program in a school, for it to be of value at a campus, it has to spill over to the rest of instruction. So if you bring a program into a school, it has to make everybody get better, not just a few people get better. So I think, that's, a really good thing to be mindful of is that we're adding value. With every program, we're adding value. It doesn't have to be the same value for every student, but it has to add value, not take things away from other students. But that's probably a really general answer. So, that's probably the best I can do. Can you just describe your experiences in budget planning, making trade-offs in planning and designing measurable outcomes? Well, I can't really explain budgets other than my home budget, which I believe we balance, but needs is kind of like budget planning. When you make a needs assessment, because you only have so much money and you have specific needs. And, I've done needs assessments I worked for a company that did training for administrators on their STEM programs. And we worked on setting goals and looking at the needs of the STEM program and kind of prioritizing things. And I think that's with measurable outcomes. And I think that would be the most relatable experience that I would have on that question. What type of public school advocacy have you done outside of our school district? I really haven't done any advocacy. It is something that I've been wanting to do. A friend of mine, when I started running for school board, actually told me we'd like you to write for us, or we'd like to see what you think about things. And I said, well, that's not the kind of writing I do. I do curriculum writing. I do just fun writing. But that is something that I'd like to do, and I haven't done yet. So, I figured maybe this would give me an opportunity to do that. Anybody else have any other questions? I'll be real interested to see how the school board election goes, because I'm not a politician, and so it's like a kind of a culture shock for me. It's kind of it's a learning experience too. I like to learn about things, obviously, but I'm a little out of my element. I have done everything myself, which I can maybe that's a bucket list. Run for school board in a pandemic. I mean that that's a bucket list. I have everybody that works for is basically me and my husband and my dog. And so, my dad designed my signs. He's a, artist, and it was free. So I took it. So, I learned a lot, and I do like technology. So I've been playing with it. Have you spoken to any of our legislators that support GCISD? Nope, not a single one. I've spoken to a lot of people in the district, but I haven't actually gone out on a limb, and even in this election, I haven't really contacted anybody. Basically, my goal is just to really run on my qualifications and the timing of it, and just kind of see what happens. But so far it hasn't been too bad. It's better than what was anticipated. Even with the pandemic, it hasn't really been that bad. It's a little tiring at times, but other than that, it hasn't been too bad. So, is there any other things on that list or concerns that you have about your school board member? I'm very open. I'd like to have conversations with people. I'm
Hi,
happy.
Lori.
Yeah.
About 2 minutes left.
2 minutes. Well, if you need to contact me, I'm pretty public, pretty scary public. My phone number is everywhere. So you can call me, you can text me, you can message me on Facebook, you can write on my Facebook page. And if you want some specific questions answered, I'll try to do my best. But other than that, I hope you will. Is that it? Wait, you mentioned there are a lot
One
of
more.
gifted. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say you have 2 more that popped in if you want to try to maybe
my
pick
goodness.
one of them.
Okay, this is the
Yeah.
You'd like to know what we would do for the mental health of GK. Yeah, that is a really good question. The pressure of failing is taken a lot harder. I think that is something that is not something that the school can do. Totally. The school sets the environment for it, but we need to help our kids take responsibility for their own mental health by telling them what things they can expect as being a gifted person. The sooner we know that we're going to have these things, this is us, this is how we're wired, then we can have our own self-advocacy. And this, I'm a firm believer in don't do something for someone they can do for themselves. So we need to equip our kids to know and anticipate they might have trouble with these things, and they just have to, do the best they can, and also ask for help. And then, when our teachers are aware of this, and we're aware of this, then we can help support that. But I do think a lot of it is something that the student has to do for themselves, with help from parents. Or you mentioned there are a lot of ways to be gifted. When we speak of GT, we refer to academically gifted. Do you support programming funding specifically for academically gifted students? Well, I'm not sure if that's a loaded question or not. Trying to read into that question. Specifically, yes, I support for specifically academically gifted, because, that's the one that we are most trained to see. But I also think we need to be aware that it may not be displayed because, again, some of these ruminating behaviors that I was talking about, some kids are working out that academically gifted using some other means. Like, for instance, they might be doing repetitive behaviors, drawing a lot, writing a lot, doing video games on end, one on end, one on end, one on end, because that is a behavior that they're repeating, that they're trying to get something out. They're working things out. So I do think that we just need to keep working on it. I mean, I just, I don't have all your answers. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right at this minute. But anyway, I hope that you will consider voting for me, look at my qualifications, see if you think that it's something that would add value to the current school board, and see what happens.
Awesome.
And I appreciate you
Well,
doing
thank you.
it. It was much more comfortable than some of the other ones.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. We've kind of enjoyed having this new format. So thank you so much, Lori, for joining us. And we appreciate it. Everybody with SAGE and all of our community really appreciates your time this evening and your time for running for the board. So thanks so much. And we're going to ask you to leave the call, and we're going to bring in our last candidate.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Last candidate. We're going to get Miss Coley Canter in here and give her just an opportunity to get her phone unmuted. And this will be our last candidate this evening. So let's see, has she made it in? She's coming. All right. Y'all are doing great on the chat questions. Keep them going. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Coley has unmuted herself. So y'all, I would like to introduce our final candidate for this evening, Miss Coley Canter. And Coley, you can take it away. It's all yours.
Awesome. Well, I'm trying to get my speaker so I can see everybody. So that's a little bit better.
We have so many people, you can't get them all on one screen.
I really can, and I'm so sorry. Hi, everybody. I can't even see me. I probably
I can't see you.
Okay. Oh, I don't have my, I guess I don't have, start video. Well, I apologize.
There you
now
go.
that I see me, I'm real sunburned. I've been sitting outside all day. So that's what you're seeing is outdoor hair and too much in the sun. But anyway, well, good evening, everybody. I am so excited to chat as best we can through this forum. I've been chatting all day, so I hope I still have some words left. I loved the questions that you guys already submitted. So I thought maybe I'd address a few of those. Just to get started, I'll have to pull those up again. I apologize. So I got the inquiry about advanced academics and working with special services, and I think some of the feedback I got is some of the things that are particularly aspiring advanced academic students are kind of the first time they've encountered that they may have either a special services need or that the system hasn't ever experienced it before. So I know that everybody has kind of a learning curve and getting up to speed and how those two programs can, excuse me, work together. I can tell you from my experience in working with my GT student in special services is that they have been exceptional in trying to find the most effective but least restrictive kind of ways to keep my child engaged with her teachers, engaged with her classmates, engaged with her special programs, while still providing an environment where she can thrive and get the learning in that she needs. So I know that they are working with the accommodations that my student needs. And I feel confident that as they learn and grow with more experience, they'll get better at identifying those kinds of accommodations. Because you know, quite often it might be easy to say that, you know, they've always figured it out. Well, they're coming to a point, particularly, I think sometimes I've seen it, of course, my experience as high school is that it's kind of the first time some of these teachers are working with highly gifted students who need some accommodation, who need extra time, or maybe to step out of the classroom, find a quiet place to do some work. Anyway, so my experience so far has been exceptional. Now, again, it's kind of a work in progress. So what works? And we keep on trying and trying and trying different things. And so I've been super pleased with my experience with that. But I know that it is something that our programs need to continue to work on. The other question was addressing advocacy. And while I've never gone down to Austin, particularly to advocate for GT and gifted programming, I have gone to Austin to work and advocate for fully funding our schools. So particularly in 2011, after the legislature took millions out of our schools, I went down in 2013 to try and get some more of that funding back. And I was also working on fewer high-risk tests, like the STAR testing that was crazy back then. If you guys recall, it was in third grade, and I happened to have a third grader at the time. They had 4 tests, and it was the nature of the test at that time were that the students had to stay in the classroom even when they were done. So at like 9 years old, they had to sit after they'd spent 2.5 hours on a test and wait till the last person got done at 4 hours. So that being said, when they had 4 tests, they had 16 hours of testing at 9 years old. So, I mean, that's 4 SATs, right? I mean, that's just crazy. They did knock that down and chip that down a little bit. So I have done some advocacy on that. And then the other thing that's kind of, particularly when it comes to advocacy, is pre-K. And I know that you know, gifted students need the same kind of attention in that early learning stage. Purely sitting and listening skills, taking instructions and learning those kind of things. So particularly for me, for what I advocated for, when I went to some of the legislators' office, they said, you get one thing to advocate for. I chose pre-K because I think that what we found is that by kindergarten, if they don't have sitting and listening, they're already behind. And so that was something that I felt really strongly about. And I've sat in classrooms. My experience is sitting and helping in kindergarten classrooms where it's easy to see the students who've had some sort of pre-K experience and some that have not. So I don't know what the GT opportunities there are, but I think that it sets for a great path to leverage those opportunities later on for GT, for our GT students. Let's see, key accomplishments of the board. Well, so key accomplishments of the board. So one of the things that I bring as a candidate is 25 years of HR experience. I worked for a mechanical contracting company, which means we do air conditioning, heating, and plumbing on large commercial buildings. So I worked in a trade industry, and it was considered a great place to work. So I worked in an HR department working on recognition, recruiting, benefits, training, trying to not, so in the trades, you know, you've got to be more than just what you pay. You can get more pay down the road. You've got to be better than that. So you've got to be a great place to work. You've got to have this culture of trust. You've got to build people up. You've got to have great supervisor relationships. And I think that one of the things that does set GCISD apart is that great place to work recognition, the top 100 districts or top 100 places to work in North Texas. I think that really sets us aside, and it makes us, you know, we want to be a destination district for students, but we also want to be a destination district for teachers. Everybody wants an opportunity to use their teaching skills to the best of their talents, right? And having Aspire gives us just another great piece to leverage new teachers and experienced teachers to really work with the population that they most enjoy. And I think that many teachers have find kind of what they really, really love to, the population they really love to serve. and having that, dynamism in our, is that the right word, within our district really provides great workplace opportunities for our teachers. And I'd like to see us continue to, recruit, hire, retain great teachers. And I know as a school board trustee, we have one person we're really kind of in charge of, but I think that providing some insight into how those recruiting practices happen is something that I would love to be a part of, because I've been able to build relationships with, well, all the teachers, or many teachers, but teachers that are both Aspire and GT and traditional, and everybody loves what they do, and so continuing to leverage those kinds of things. So I'd like to see our board to continue to do things that would increase that best place to work. You know what I didn't do? So y'all, we're gonna pretend like I just started, but I haven't. But remember everything I just said. I didn't introduce myself. So I've been doing it all day and I just forgot. My name is Coley Canter and I'm running for place 5. I have 3 daughters in the district. I have a freshman, a junior, and a senior at Grapevine High School. My husband, Steve, and I have lived all 20 years of our marriage in the district. My kids started at Glen Hope, went to Cross Timbers, and now they're all fully at Grapevine High School. What inspired my service to the district was a special teacher in 2nd grade that identified my daughter's reading comprehension deficit. And she spent the spring 2 days a week after school getting my daughter to, at the very least, not hate reading. I love reading. She never has a passion for it, but she's in AP literature as a senior right now. So this teacher really was meaningful to my daughter. And when somebody does that for your kid, my goal was to read, what can I do? What can I do to give back? And so that is where I started. That next year I was PTA president. So I didn't decide to just start kind of baby steps, just went all in, which is how I've kind of continued to volunteer and serve in the district. And I'm having one of those all in moments today, just so you know, it's been all in today at the polls. So that, and then what else? So that's really how my service kind of started 12 years ago in the district. I've since served in roles from PTA president to chief popcorn popper, I can set up furniture and I can lead a meeting and manage a budget and coordinate volunteers and also hot glue stars for Veterans Day program. So I kind of run the gambit there. I've been legislative chair and have gone to Austin a couple of times to visit with our legislators. So as I mentioned, so that is a little bit about 2 of my daughters are identified as GT. They were both identified at Glen Hope and have been receiving GT services. And then my daughter is taking 4 or 5 AP classes as a senior this year. So she's also doing advanced placement classes. One of the unique experiences I think I have is, as it pertains to your group particularly, is that I was at Glen Hope when they launched Aspire. So it was a very unique experience, and integrating that many new teachers at one time, we were concerned, and I can't say that it wasn't just a little bumpy, but what I can say is that it did seem to leverage the experience of all the teachers, but it also seemed to leverage the experience of all students. So one of the things I did get to do for 2 years in a row is chaperone the 4th graders to Sky Ranch. So I didn't just get a little, pop into a classroom and say hi or spend time with a teacher. I actually camped out for 3 days with Aspire and traditional students in a cabin, and getting 14 girls with their hair brushed and teeth brushed and in bed is never easy, but it gave me a unique perspective and what the needs of our Aspire students are, and how they display themselves differently from traditional students, and which was really interesting. But I think that also brought a level of awareness to traditional students on how I think that as we go into the workplace, we're never ever going to have a bunch of people who think just like us. So I think it really taught everybody involved in how to work with, sharing a sink with people who don't, probably think like you all the time. So I do think there was something special. I think the other thing that I've found with particularly our Aspire teachers at Glen Hope, and maybe this is throughout the system, but my closest relationships are there at Glen Hope, is that they have really embraced social emotional learning into their instruction and making those connections to leverage learning in the classroom. So I think that quite often that piece, so traditional teachers are seeing the successes of the social emotional learning in the Aspire classrooms and rolling that out. So if you want to think of a piece that's really as much as maybe learning strategies, I think the social emotional learning strategies are being leveraged throughout elementary, because I think that those are moments where moments that kids can really, like, something can click easier if a teacher's able to connect with them on a social emotional level, and get their brain in a great mind space to learn. So I think a lot of our social emotional learning is getting kids able to focus and frame themselves in a position to learn their very best. And so that's kind of what Tiffany Grifford at Glen Hope has attended the Changing the Odds Conference, which is a social emotional learning conference for teachers and counselors, and has attended it every year since I started attending, and it's been 10 years, 10 years. So I know that those teachers fully embrace that kind of the social emotional piece and how to leverage that for their students. Let's see. One of the other things, so are there any other questions? What else do I need to say? Just keep talking. Are there questions? I think there might be questions. So am I supposed to just answer here on the bottom? I'm sorry, I've been talking and not reading. So my specific motivation for running for school board is honestly to continue serving the students. The teachers have made such a dramatic impact on my kid's life, and our district has served our family so well, that I feel like I have something I can give back of value, of tremendous value, something that I've worked hard at. So I understand our schools. I've worked at the elementary and secondary level, on the district level. I've advocated for our district and our teachers. I have spent, again, 25 years in HR, looking at great place to work strategies. And I think that making sure that our teachers feel like this is a great place to work, because the school funding system is not going to get better, and our opportunities to provide, what teachers are probably worth is not ever going to get there. So we have to have ways to make that beyond compensation that will provide. People don't quit jobs they love for more money more often than not. They stay in those jobs. So I think that it's important for teacher retention that we keep this great place to work. So my big motivation at the very core of it is that this district has done so much for my family that I feel very motivated to serve and give back. Specific ways. So certainly, I think, so one of my favorites is always employee recognition. I think that making sure that employees are honored and recognized, particularly teachers, because it's a unique gift to make a meaningful difference in a child's life, recognizing teachers for those things that they can especially do for a student. So I think teacher recognition, employee recognition is very, very important. I think there are some other ways to structure continuing education. The teachers I found are lifelong learners. So finding opportunities to enhance their training opportunities is another great way, because they love, as teachers, they understand the value of learning. So finding some great ways to provide additional training, and how they're always looking for the next best way to reach out to a child, and they're never done until they get there. So I think recognition and training are two really great ways to create a great place to work and keep us on that top 100 list. Top priorities, GCISD, or otherwise overall funding. I can't read that whole question. It's kind of cut off. Well, I will say that November 4th, I think we are all going to shift our focus to the legislative session starting in January. I think that this pandemic is going to ding us hard. I will tell you, I was there in 2011 when it did it the last time, and I sat on the SEAT committee, which was working on prioritizing what we could and couldn't do anymore.
Colley, you have about 2 minutes left.
All right, so on funding. So, one of the things we did is we went to 7 periods instead of having block scheduling. I hope we don't have to do that again. We shuffled schedules to make transportation less of an expense. We unfortunately didn't give teacher raises. Those were dark times. But I know that we tried every single possible thing we could do to make sure that we kept the money in M&O for teachers, and we didn't have to make any cuts that way. So, my priority is really going to stick with teachers, and that can keep serving our kids. I can't believe I still have words, y'all. Thank you for being so patient with me.
Thank you so much, Colley. We really appreciate it.
You bet. I know you guys have heard a lot of words too.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate it. So we're just going to ask you to go ahead and log off the call, maybe get some good rest tonight. And I just have a couple closing words for everybody before you hang up on me.
All right. Bye, you guys. Thanks. Good night.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Awesome. So just real quickly, before everyone scoots away for our evening, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And a special thank you to all of the candidates for participating this evening and for dedicating the time that it takes to run for and also to fulfill the duties of a Board of Trustee. It's a lot of work. As a reminder, please don't forget to check out our website. Even if you are a member, please go check out the website at gc-sage.org for our voter guide, and also for information on joining SAGE and for information on some of our upcoming programs. I know for a couple of you, I know a couple of, 1 or 2 of the candidates mentioned the Aspire review, and you'll see information on the page about an upcoming education program that we're offering, detailing the review for the Aspire program. So I would encourage you to head out to the website. Also, if there's any questions from anyone on previous candidate forums, I think I mentioned in the beginning that we have hosted candidate forums for the last, I think, at least 5 years, and videos of those candidate forums are out there. So if anyone has any questions about how our forums have been handled in the past, you are welcome to go take a look at those. But I'm hoping everyone enjoyed this format. I would love to get some feedback from everybody. So if you have a few minutes, sometime shoot me an email at president@gc-sage.org and let me know if you liked this format, so that we can kind of have some ideas for plans for next spring. And lastly, early voting open today, and it runs through August. Oh Lord, please no. Early voting open today and runs through October 30th with Election Day on November 3rd. So please make plans to go out and vote, and I just thank you all for being here tonight.